On February 20, 2025, the Rust team released version 1.85.0, and alongside it, they officially stabilized the Rust 2024 edition. Additions are how Rust makes changes that would otherwise break backward compatibility. They are opt-in. Your existing Rust 2021 code keeps working exactly as before. You upgrade to 2024 when you are ready, and in most cases, CargoFix handles the migration automatically. But here is the thing. The Rust 2024 edition is the most significant edition since 2018. It brings async closures, the single most requested feature in the Rust community for years. It fixes the unsafe keyword confusion that has tripped up every systems developer who ever wondered why marking a function unsafe means two completely different things. It cleans up lifetime capture rules that made RPIT types unnecessarily painful to work with. It makes extern blocks safer. It improves temporary drop order. And it ships with a revamped cargo resolver and Rustfmt style additions. In this video, I am going to take you through every meaningful change in the 2024 edition, what it is, why it was added, and what it looks like in real code. No filler, just the changes that actually matter to you as a working Rust developer. Let's go through it. Before we dive in, I want to talk about Aarambh Dev Hub's partner, CodeCrafters, and this one I actually mean it when I say it is a good one. If you have been watching Aarambh Dev Hub for a while, you already know that we are all about understanding how things actually work under the hood. Not just using tools, but truly understanding them. Why does Redis work the way it does? How does Git actually store your commits? What is really happening when you type a command in your shell? CodeCrafters is built around exactly that same curiosity. CodeCrafters is a platform where you rebuild real developer tools from scratch. Things like Git, Redis, a shell, an HTTP server, a DNS server, a BitTorrent client, you actually build them yourself, stage by stage, in your own language. Every stage unlocks the next, and you can see exactly how far along you are as you go. Now the most popular language on CodeCrafters is Rust, and that makes total sense for this channel. If you're just getting started with Rust and want to learn it the right way, this is honestly one of the best approaches out there. Instead of reading theory or doing small exercises that go nowhere, you sit down and build something real. Something you have actually heard of. Something that exists in the real world. And that is when Rust really starts to click. This is not your typical tutorial platform where you just watch someone else code and feel like you learned something. You are the one writing the code. You are the one debugging it. You are the one making it pass each stage. That kind of active, hands-on learning is what actually makes you a better systems programmer, and I will be honest. It is genuinely a lot of fun. The challenges are used by engineers at companies like Google, Meta, and Shopify. And if your company has a learning and development budget, there is a very good chance CodeCrafters is covered under it, meaning it could cost you absolutely nothing out of pocket. Worth checking with your manager before you pay yourself. The link is in the description below. Check it out, and if you do sign up through it, you also directly support Aarambh Dev Hub, so thank you in advance if you do. Alright, now let us get into the video. Before the features, let me quickly explain what an addition actually is because this confuses a lot of developers. Rust makes a strong compatibility promise. Code that compiled on an earlier version of Rust will always compile on a newer version. But some improvements to the language would naturally require syntax or semantic changes that break existing code. Additions are the mechanism Rust uses to allow those changes while keeping the promise. When you create a new project in 2026, your cargo toml defaults to edition equals 2024. If you have an existing project on edition equals 2021, it stays on 2021 until you upgrade. The important thing is that a library compiled on edition 2021 and a library compiled on edition 2024 can depend on each other with zero issues. Additions do not split the ecosystem. The addition only affects how the compiler parses and interprets your own crate's code. To migrate an existing project, you run cargo fix addition and then update the addition field in cargo toml. In most cases, this is all you need. Quick one, if you are keeping up with Rust releases and finding this useful, hit the like button. It helps this reach more Rust developers. Subscribe for more weekly Rust content. Back to the edition. This is the headline feature of the 2024 edition, and it has been on the community's wish list for years. Rust now supports async closures. You write async followed by pipe parameters pipe, and get a closure that returns a future when called. This might look like a small syntax difference, but it fixes a real ergonomics problem. The old workaround with the move closure returning an async block could not properly capture variables by mutable reference across await points. Async closures can. They also enable cleaner trait bounds. The new AsyncFn RO AsyncFn once traits work exactly like Fn RFM mode and RFN once but for closures that return futures. Before this feature, writing higher-order async functions like this required either boxing the future, which allocates on every call, or complex trait workarounds. AsyncFn gives you the clean version with no allocations. In every edition before 2024, you could write an extern block like this. In the 2024 edition, this requires the unsafe keyword. The reasoning is important. Every function declared in an extern block is implicitly unsafe to call. It is foreign code with no Rust safety guarantees. The 2024 edition makes this explicit. The unsafe keyword on the block now says I acknowledge that everything in here is potentially unsafe. But there is a new capability too. Individual functions inside an unsafe extern block can be marked safe if you know they are actually safe to call from any context. In the example above, abs from the C standard library genuinely has no safety preconditions. It takes any integer and returns its absolute value. Marking it safe means callers do not need an unsafe block to call it. This is more accurate and more ergonomic than making everything unsafe by default. Related to extern blocks, 3 attributes that have always had the potential to cause undefined behavior, if misused, are now required to be placed inside an unsafe block. The attributes nomangle, export name, and link section can all cause undefined behavior. If 2 functions have the same exported name after nomangle, the linker does not guarantee which one gets called. Requiring the unsafe wrapper makes the risk explicit and searchable. When something goes wrong, you can grep for unsafe and find where the risk was acknowledged. This is a change that affects how you write unsafe functions, and it is worth understanding because it makes unsafe Rust significantly cleaner. Before the 2024 edition, marking a function as unsafe had 2 effects at once. It marked the function as unsafe to call, and it also implicitly allowed unsafe operations inside the function body without an inner unsafe block. This conflation caused real confusion. It was hard to look at a large unsafe function and see at a glance exactly which operations were actually unsafe versus which were just regular Rust inside an unsafe context. In the 2024 edition, unsafe OP in unsafe FN warns by default. You must put an explicit unsafe block around the actual unsafe operations. This is a significant improvement for code clarity. Now when you read an unsafe function, the inner unsafe blocks are visible markers pointing exactly at what is risky. The rest of the function is just regular Rust. Return position impl trait. The impl trait return syntax had a frustrating inconsistency around lifetime capture that the 2024 edition fixes. Let me show you the old problem. In edition 2021, lifetime parameters were not captured by RPIT types by default. You had to use the workaround of adding a lifetime bound to the return type. In edition 2024, lifetime parameters are captured implicitly by default, consistent with how generic type parameters have always behaved. And if you want to explicitly control which lifetimes and generics are captured, you use the used-lib. This makes async functions significantly more ergonomic too, since AsyncFn disregards to returning an impal future, and the old lifetime capture rules caused many spurious errors in async code. This one is subtle, but it affected real code in ways that were surprising and hard to debug. In editions before 2024, temporaries created in the final expression of an if-let block or a match arm were sometimes dropped in an unexpected order, after local variables instead of before them. This could cause subtle bugs when destructors had meaningful side effects, like releasing a mutex lock. The 2024 edition fixes temporary drop order so that temporaries created in if-let conditions and tail expressions are dropped at the end of the enclosing block, before any local variables in that block. This matches what most developers expect and eliminates a class of subtle deadlocks. If you are migrating a project to the 2024 edition and hitting edge cases, come discuss it in the Discord. The link is in the description. We run a weekly Sunday study group and edition migration questions come up regularly. Link is below. The 2024 edition brings 2 significant cargo changes worth knowing. First, Rust version-aware dependency resolution. Cargo now considers the Rust version field in your cargo toml and the Rust version fields in your dependencies when resolving versions. Before this change, Cargo would sometimes select dependency versions that required a newer Rust compiler than your project declared it needed. The 2024 resolver prioritizes dependency versions that are compatible with your declared Rust version. For teams on older Rust toolchains, common in embedded and enterprise environments, this prevents confusing compiler version errors. Second, consistency in cargo toml keys. The 2024 edition removes some outdated and inconsistent cargo toml keys that have been deprecated for years. If you run cargo fix edition, Cargo will automatically update these for you. The main visible effect is cleaner cargo toml files with fewer surprises. Rustfmt in the 2024 edition introduces style editions, a way to control formatting style independently from the language edition. This matters for large teams and codebases with strict formatting rules. You can upgrade to the Rust 2024 language edition without being forced to reformat your entire codebase at the same time. You keep the 2021 style edition for formatting, adopt the 2024 language features, and migrate formatting separately on your own schedule. Rust 2024 also brings a batch of formatting improvements, better handling of long match arms, cleaner multi-line function call formatting, and improved sorting of use imports. These are subtle, but they add up to noticeably cleaner output in complex codebases. 3 standard library functions are now marked unsafe in the 2024 edition. The reason is that setVar and removeVar can cause data races in multi-threaded programs. If one thread is reading environment variables while another thread calls setVar, the read can see partially updated state, undefined behavior in the C standard library that Rust inherits. By marking them unsafe, the 2024 edition makes the risk explicit. In a multi-threaded program, you should only call these before spawning any threads, which is the safe usage pattern. The same applies to command ext. Before exec on Unix platforms, it marks a callback that runs between fork and exec, which has severe restrictions on what it can safely do, so the unsafe marking communicates those restrictions explicitly. The 2024 edition reserves several keywords for potential future use. The keyword gen is reserved for an upcoming generator feature, functions that use a yield keyword to produce values lazily, similar to Python generators and JavaScript generator functions. They are not yet stable, but the 2024 edition reserves the syntax so the feature can be added in a future release without breaking existing code that use gen as a variable name. If you have code that uses gen as an identifier, CargoFix will automatically rename it during migration. Let me walk through the migration quickly because it is genuinely simple for most projects. First, make sure you are on Rust 1.85 or newer. Then run the automatic migration tool. This applies conservative automated fixes, renaming reserved identifiers, adding unsafe blocks where required by the new rules, updating cargo toml keys. Then update the edition in your cargo toml. Build and test. For most projects, that is everything. The unsafe changes will require a review pass. CargoFix adds unsafe blocks conservatively, but you want to verify each one has a proper safety comment documenting why the unsafe operation is correct. The important thing to remember is that you do not have to migrate immediately. Edition 2021 code keeps working. Migrate when it is convenient for your project and team, and migrate one crate at a time in a workspace if you prefer. If this channel keeps you up to date on Rust and you want to support the work, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description. Every supporter makes it possible to keep covering Rust releases and making these deep dive videos. Thank you genuinely to everyone who already has. That is every meaningful feature in the Rust 2024 edition. Async closures with the new AsyncFn traits, unsafe extern blocks with per-function safety annotations, unsafe attributes, the unsafe op in UnsafeFn, warning making unsafe functions clearer, RPIT lifetime capture fixes, temporary drop order improvements, Cargo's Rust version aware resolver, Rustfmt style editions, newly unsafe standard library functions, and the gen keyword reservation. The 2024 edition is the most significant update since 2018, and async closures alone make the upgrade worth it for any project doing serious async work. If this video helped you understand what is in the edition and whether to upgrade, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe for more Rust content every week. Drop a comment. Which feature are you most excited about? I read every single one. Check out the Tokyo vs. Small video for deeper async Rust context and the 10 Rust mistakes video for best practices. Both are linked in the description. Join the Discord community, link in the description. And support via Buy Me a Coffee, also linked. Thanks for watching and happy coding.